The following program is rated BBMA-LSA. It contains strong language, sexual situations, awesomeness, and nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Listener indiscretions are advised.
Welcome to our Bliss Bringers podcast. The materials we cover encourage adults of all ages, nationalities, and sexualities to open up and embrace their wildest desires and blissful pleasures. You won't find medical advice here, just our personal experiences following the journey of sexual evolution and education in sizzling fun topics that were definitely not taught to us in school, but have wickedly blossomed into reality. We discuss adventures in ethical non-monogamy, kinks and fetishes, exotic places to visit, sexy events, workshops, and tips. Allow us to seduce you into embarking on new adventures where each day you ask yourself, what's your pleasure?
Hello, everybody. We are back. We are back from New Orleans, and we have a lot of material about that, but that's gonna come later. First, a little bit of a story. I was in New Orleans with Mrs. Puppy, and she pointed me out to a very cute girl that caught her eye. So we chatted with her. Turns out she was also an instructor, the instructor for the wrestling class that we signed up for. So we chatted a little bit more. Turns out that she is not just an instructor, but also a stripper, a activist, and an all-round awesome person. So what did we do? We sat her down for an interview. Here it goes.
Anyway, so we're just finishing up at Naughty in Nawlins, and we took your class. This is my girl crush, by the way. So tell us about your classes and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Andre Shakti, and this is my first year at Naughty in Nawlins, so I'm super excited to have met some really cool people. I am a sex worker. I've been in the industry for 10 years. I mostly do professional domination work and exotic dancing, which you know a little something about, and pornographic work, mostly like fetish and BDSM.
Best lap dance ever.
Spoiler alert, best lap dance ever. Yeah, I'm just an all-around big old hoe. And I've been teaching people about sex and relationships and pleasure and specific skill sets and the sex industry at large for about 7 years now. At this event, I taught a strap-on 101/pegging 101 class. I taught a fisting and manual sex workshop, and then I taught a groping and grappling intro to fetish wrestling class, which you two were very enthusiastic about.
I was so excited. I'm like, I'm going to tackle him and push him down and hold him down.
I know, and I still didn't get to show you guys like any like chokes because you had to run out and teach your own stuff in the middle of it.
I
So
know, it was so sad.
Part 2 is coming.
Well, good thing is that you're local for us, and so, we can figure something out.
I know. It's so great to meet California people all the way out here. I expected a lot more West Coast people for some reason, but it seems like the Midwest is a major pull for this event. It seems like a lot of flyover country people.
Yeah, you also have to think about the less local capability is there in terms of like swing clubs, the more people are inclined to go to big events like these. There's people around here that we talk to who only swing like a couple times a year because they're somewhere in West Virginia or whatever, and basically you're fucked there.
They're
and
isolated.
Not in a good way.
In the bad way.
So we're living in a little bit of a lifestyle bubble in the San Francisco area because we think that everywhere it's like this, but it's not. We're very lucky on that.
So you folks know there are a few of us porn people that are here at the convention. Riley LeRaise and Lance Hart and I all went to the masquerade ball they had last night at the hotel, and then we decided to exit the hotel and go explore some gay bars in the area. Our Lyft driver, was driving us around, and she's like, wait, why are you guys are leaving the hotel? Like, isn't the event at the hotel? Don't you guys want to do all that stuff? And we're like, we live this 24/7. We're like, this is our life 24/7. Most of these people, just like you said, are coming in for their slutcation that they take, either quarterly or twice a year or once a year. And they're like, so they're partying up. We're like oversaturated. We're like sex saturated. So we're like, yeah, that's really cute and all, but like, let's go out and like dance or shop ever eat.
Let's go to the ballet.
Yeah, right, exactly. Let's go. Seriously,
Something
Lance was like, my mother's friend is singing jazz at the W down the road. And I'm like, you are so wholesome and delightful right now. I love you.
And possibly have another orgy this week.
Exactly. I know. Well, when you're in the sex industry, it's like being in sales. The work is unpredictable. So sometimes you are going high velocity. I might have 4 or 5 clients a week and I'm shooting, 1 or 2 scenes in that week. Or I could go 3 or 4 weeks where I don't have any clients and I'm not shooting anything. But if I'm in a period of like intense, sexual saturation with my work, then I'm going to be less inclined to want to be around sexual spaces, in my off time and vice versa. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Never thought of it that way. But it makes sense.
Which of these different activities between the teaching and the shoots and
the best lap dance ever.
Yes.
Which is like my focus
Yes.
or my so I do a lot of the past 2 years I've been doing a lot of non-monogamy coaching. I don't necessarily identify as a swinger, but I do identify as a member of the non-monogamy community, and I feel like we're all in that same family together, no matter how you identify, whether it's poly or non-monogamous or monogamish or et cetera, et cetera. So I've been doing a lot of non-monogamy coaching. I've been polyamorous identified since I was 19, so it's been a decade now, which is crazy. I write a weekly advice column called I Am Poly and So Can You, and people can see it at iampolly.net, and you can submit your questions. And then I also do a lot of journalism and a lot of activism and a lot of education around open relationships. I'm like doing that kind of full time right now, and then I'm like hoeing on the side. Right now, that's like my main focus.
And do you give any courses in the San Francisco area?
Sometimes, but speaking of saturation, as I'm sure you guys know, you just mentioned, like, we live in this, bright, shiny pink progressive bubble out there. The more progressive the area, the more resources there are going to be, and the less excited people get about that stuff because they're like, oh yeah, it's just another Tuesday night, So I travel a lot, and usually I'm out of the area, like, for a week or 2 out of every month, and I'll go to Baltimore or Philadelphia or Chicago or Portland or Seattle or places that don't have so much education that's accessible to people. So no regular classes in San Francisco right now. Mostly it's conventions, conferences, that kind of thing.
Cruises?
Yes, I'm really excited about this. I just got confirmation. I trapped John Gunner after yesterday, and I was like, I'm teaching you on the cruise, right? He's like, we already have you signed up. Yes.
Awesome.
I know. Have you guys been on a swingers cruise before?
I have, yes.
You have.
Not on a Bob and Tess one. I've heard good things about them. So
what is it like? Because I've been on a cruise, and now I've been in a swingers convention. So how is like the swingers cruise like different?
It's about the same as a regular cruise, but
It's sluttier people.
Yes, you get to fuck people if you want, and instead of activities like children's playroom, they have an adults playroom, and you get to do whatever you want to do there. Mm-hmm. When I went, it was very interesting because you also do these trips outside, and it's one way to meet up with people and hang out and explore new territories or new cities and stuff like that. So that's the same as with a regular cruise, but afterwards you get to make new friends.
Yay! New fluid friends. Fluid bonded friends. That's the best kind of friends.
Yes. Naked friends, as we call them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a lot of fun, and we've seen trainings happen in varying degrees of quality, let's just say that. I saw a 101 BDSM class on a cruise that had a dominatrix put needles in a guy's scrotum.
That was the BDSM 101.
Yes,
She did
yes.
piercing at CBT play. What?
Yes.
I want to meet the woman who thinks the introductory level to BDSM is sticking needles in
And
someone's
then the
balls.
sub was walking around and people were sitting in and all the guys had automatic sympathy pains.
Oh, yeah. I don't even have testicles. And I'd be like, oh, God, no.
And yeah, so as I said, there's varying levels of quality in the training.
That's so interesting. I know I'm largely unfamiliar with this particular like niche of the non-monogamy community. So meeting new instructors, meeting new, new companies. I didn't even know there were so many swingers like destination trips and conventions like
It's
this.
big business.
I didn't know. I really had no idea. I'll be honest with you. I had to work through some of my preconceived notions that I had about the swinger community coming out here, which is that in my mind, I think, and in most people's minds, if they have no real, familiarity with it, they think it's a bunch of people over the age of 50. It's all white. It's all straight, very heterosexual. The men are very kind of like possessive of the women, and the women kind of get shuttled around. And it's basically the opposite of what I thought it was. I mean, it does skew a little bit older in terms of demographics, but otherwise very diverse, sexual orientation-wise, very diverse. People having all different kinds of relationships with their partners. So sometimes they're at orgies, and then are like, the couples are making. Yeah, it's just really
I think
cool.
the one real bias is swingers tend to have more money than poly people.
That is, yeah, that's true.
You know the stereotype of the poly potluck?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, the stereotype? We live in the Bay Area.
Yes,
I go
it's
to
like-
a poly potluck like every week. It's not a stereotype. It's real life. No, that's
So
true.
what I was going to say, though, is at this event, you will find an older demographic because of the expense. But,
Yes.
Some of the parties I go to, I personally, have been involved with people from age 22 and up. So,
Get it?
hey, when you click, you click. I have to
Nothing wrong
click.
with that.
I have to click. It's not just all about, who's the hottest. It's got to be a click.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this event is very expensive. So you tend to have people that are more established financially, and those tend to be people who are older in demographic, I'm sure.
And I think even more so with the cruises. There's
Absolutely. The higher the price point,
yes,
yeah.
and being able to take like a week or 2 weeks off to go travel and airfare and all that stuff. There's a bill to that.
See, but you can hack it, and you can become a sex educator, and then you can start getting invited to these things for free.
You can get comp to get laid. Don't tell people the secret.
I'll tell you this is a true statement. I have not had sex since I've been here. I have not had sex in probably 2 weeks. I haven't had sex the entire time I've been here. And it's by choice. I have had a lot of very tempting offers, but I'm kind of experimenting because, again, you're in the sexually saturated environment. You guys know as educators, people who run a podcast, if you are doing you're teaching 3 seminars in a day, and then you're doing a podcast, at the end of the day, probably the last thing you want to talk about is your brand. You just want to go somewhere with a glass of wine or a tumbler of whiskey and take a breather. That's how my vagina feels. My vagina is out on the lanai with a glass of wine
I
right now.
Felt some of the time, the podcast was a cock blocker for us on this trip. It's you start talking to people, and then they're like, "Wait a minute, aren't you the Blissbringer people?" And we're like, "Yeah." And then it's "Oh, you guys do a great job. It was nice meeting you." And they're gone, and we're looking at each other that started off fun and flirty, and then as soon as the podcast thing came out, they're like, "Oh, it was nice meeting
Were
you."
they
We wouldn't
afraid of being you would get on and tell
I don't know if
non-consensually?
they thought we weren't interested and we were just working, which, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you, since you're younger than me, but you've been poly longer than I have. What's your advice for us in the poly realm, since we are new to this?
Oh my God, just general advice? You can't ask me. That's tell me something about polyamory. It's I don't
How to not fuck it up.
what do you want to know? I don't know. What do you want to know? Because I feel your level of familiarity with polyamory is still my level of familiarity with swinging. So we're both noobs in each other's identities. So I'm not quite sure. I'm still not sure how different swinging is and how similar it is to
Swinging,
polyamory.
it depends on the people. Just I would say, just like polyamory has different levels, right? Some people live with several partners, and some people this is their lifestyle. And then some people in swing just meet and fuck. They don't need to know your name, don't need to know anything about you. Some people have friends with benefits, and some people have long-term friendships with people where there's love involved, but not necessarily romantic love. So I think it just depends on the actual couple or the person in it, and probably the same for poly.
I think polyamory is more political. I'm trying not to like speak in assumptions because I don't want to make any assumptions about the swinging community at all without knowing it. But I feel like polyamory is more akin to, there's a term called relationship anarchy. Have you guys heard that term? Now, again, I'm in the San Francisco Bay Area, but polyamorous communities for me have always been very, very queer. Not exclusively queer. They're queer, but welcoming of anyone, right? And I feel like swinging populations are the opposite. They're largely straight, but they're welcoming of everyone and they're including of everyone. But I do feel like there are, it's a friendlier place for transgender people in the polyamorous community. I feel like there are a lot of grassroots activism, again, because of price point differentials. A lot of swinging events and conventions and whatnot have higher price points than polyamory social functions. And so that makes it easier for marginalized people who maybe are black or brown or queer or trans to go to polyamorous events as opposed to swinging events.
Right.
So I think they feel like it's more accessible to them. And I think it speaks to, especially now in the time we are in the United States, I think it speaks to a lot of people's like political leanings. But I feel like it also, at its core, has way more similarities with swinging than it does dissimilarities. For example, just like with swinging, there are unlimited permutations of how you can, do polyamory. Like you said, you could be a couple, who hooks up with only other couples. You could be a couple where the man has no interest in, we'll just say a heteronormative model, where the guy has no interest in hooking up, but his wife does, and that is totally fine with them, and that's their relationship. Maybe he even has cuckolding fetish or something fun where he likes watching her, or a hot wifing, he likes watching her get off. Maybe you have like a more family style of poly, where you cohabitate with partners. Oh, we have an intruder. Hello. Goodbye.
Scotty-O just said hello.
Some people live with their partners. In the Bay Area, I happen to know a lot of parents who are parenting in polyamorous configurations, triads, quads. It seems to be a very community and family-oriented thing in the Bay, again, in that microcosm kind of.
Yeah. So when I got into swinging, I thought that it's going to be a bunch of guys who force their wife into it, that want to see their wife with women, and that they're not going to be, It was actually, I found a lot of the women who'd pushed for it because they wanted to play with women. And what my experience is that the guys don't handle it as well as the women. Like, you get together with a newbie woman, and
he wants you to just like give that
wants you to
microphone
eat
a blowjob. No, I'm like, you deep throat that microphone. You deep throat it.
So anyways, what I was going to say is that what I found is that a lot of the men had a harder time watching I thought it was going to be a bunch of jealous women. I was afraid my first experience that the woman was going to grab me by the hair and be like, get off my husband.
Exactly.
But it was absolutely the opposite. It was the men freaking out that their wife was having a good time with my husband. That was my early experiences.
Wow.
And so I tried to be more careful as I moved on with that. I was completely blindsided by the opposite compared to what I thought it was going to be. Here's the mic.
Thank you.
Oh, did he feel left out over there?
Mine. All right.
Hey, look it, it's yours. That's the rule.
That could be interesting.
I know.
That
you
could
just
be
stopped. You're like, I lost my train of thought all time.
What I was going to get at is the stereotype on men get the couple into swinging. The women keep the couple into swinging because they find out like they get sort of seduced or a little bit pushed into it, and then they're like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, I'm empowered there. Oh, I have all these attention for me. Like, oh, fuck this. I'm not giving this up.
Well, yeah, speaking of that, I was one of the women on the Empowered Women in the Lifestyle panel that they had here yesterday. And it was, I'm going to not get everybody's name, but it was Ying Ying, Dr. Zana, Riley Reyes, Neo Weeks. And that was exactly what the entire panel was about. Was about feeling empowered, coming into your confidence, coming into your self-awareness, destigmatizing, stereotypes about in the industry, in the lifestyle. This is one major difference that maybe you guys can help me understand. So it wasn't until after the panel where the women and I were all just talking amongst ourselves, saying how we personally identified. I mentioned I identified as non-monogamous, and then somebody was like, yeah, but is that really a lifestyle? And I was like, oh my God, you're right. I don't think of my non-monogamy as a lifestyle. I think of it as it's part of my identity. Like I really cannot do relationships ethically. If I want to be ethical about them, I cannot do a monogamous relationship. I can't. I've tried it and I can't do it. It's no more a lifestyle than my queer identity is a lifestyle, you know? So that was very interesting to me because we were talking about the difference between, in the beginning, folks who kind of do this on the regular versus folks who take these sexcations. And I think folks who they're destination swingers,
yes,
you know?
Yes.
It's very much a social thing still for them. It's very much a big air quotations lifestyle. But for me, I don't actually see it as a lifestyle.
A lot of people, they come to this event, they fucking go. There's no relationships with the people afterward. They might get their information so that when they come back for their sexcation, they can hook up with those people again. But like I said, there's varying degrees of it. Some people don't want their husband texting someone on a regular basis and having relationships. The way I've always done it is I've always had relationships, and I've had long-term swinger friends for 4 years since I started.
Yeah.
And you know, you go through spurts where you might play with those people and then not play for a while and then play, you know, just, you know, it's like off and on. But I get what you're saying about the whole lifestyle thing.
People use the word lifestyle and they overuse it. And there's a thing called being a lifestyle and what they call the lifestyle as a code word for swinging, because swinging is sort of a dirty word in somebody's. Yes, and it's fucking annoying.
And we fucking hate those people.
To me, certain aspects of poly and BDSM are more lifestyle or being a lifestyle than swinging. Swinging you can do like, on a Saturday night, we're going to go out to this event and we're going to take...
Vice versa. You mean that being poly and BDSM is more of an identity and then swinging is more of a lifestyle?
Yes,
okay,
because being poly and being kinky is something that can stick longer and that can permeate through your entire lifestyle organization, right?
Swinging is more situational.
Yes, like with us, we're in a poly relationship. We had to make some adjustments on that, right? Google Calendar is the best.
Lifesaver, it's a lifesaver, that Google Calendar.
And working around things like business trips and how we deal with family and other partners.
You're doing poly. I mean,
yes.
That's what you guys are doing.
Because, you know, the thing is that people always worry about love. Like, oh, what if I fall in love with somebody? Oh, you know, what if I just share my spouse? Love is a simple fucking part. It's time that you have limited. Love is, you know, you
love is not finite. Time is finite.
Right. So you only have so much time to spend with everybody. So that's the challenge. The challenge is time.
Absolutely.
Because, this isn't something we do on the weekend. I mean, we are daily communicating and trying to work in time to spend together. And it's difficult. It's difficult time-wise.
It is. It is really, I like to say, I don't think there's any superiority in non-monogamy. I think sometimes non-monogamists can get up on their high horse and be like, those boring monogamous people, like they don't know what they're missing, you know. But I don't think I think that monogamy is the right choice for some people, and I think that non-monogamy is the right choice for some people. I do think we're naturally wired to be non-monogamous, and non-monogamy is harder.
Yes.
It is. It's not better. It's not worse. It's more difficult. It requires a specific skill set that not everybody has. And that, I think, is one of the most important parts about sustaining. You guys are adorable right now. They are fighting over this microphone. And they're like fighting, but still trying to be like nice to each other. So they're like pulling it and then like smiling. And now they're making it. Okay, just talk. I'm going to throw up on the microphone. Just going to barf all over this mic right now.
I'll blow you away for a minute. My husband and I did monogamy for 23 years. No cheating, no nothing. We've been together for 27.
Oh, you know what, though? You said that. You said I've been doing it longer than you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was fine both ways. I don't think I could go back now, especially with the whole poly thing. I don't think I could go back, but I was okay with it.
To get back to the comment that we started this with, I think
Which was what exactly?
about it being a
Was it
lifestyle.
about your penis?
Yes.
Was it?
That was definitely about my penis. He's going to have his own podcast one of these days.
You were trying to come up with a name last night for
No.
Oh my God. Wait, you haven't named it yet? Are you kidding me with like all this reputation? You haven't.
Honest, he doesn't like ever admit, like when I first was getting get together with him, I'm like, yeah, I heard all about your like dick before you. And he's like, it's a lie. It's all lies.
It's a lie.
Not. It's not. And then we got together to play, and here it's in my face, and I was like, oh my God, I need the lube.
And then I woke up tomorrow morning with a black eye. And
Yes,
then
I
it was,
poked out. There's another story there.
Oh. That reminds me of the time that I don't play with penises very often, but when I do, I remember being like a 17-year-old going to my first sex toy store in Seattle.
I felt like you needed that drink in front of you. What is that drink?
Yeah. What is that?
Dos Equis?
Yeah, so Dos Equis. But when I do, I drink Dos Equis.
We should get
Rico Suave. So I remember my first, I don't know why I'm thinking about this right now, but that's what I'm thinking about. But my first boyfriend and I, we went to the sex toy store. We bought my first vibrator, and we bought one of those vibrating jelly ring cock rings, or jelly rubber cock
Those
rings.
are fun, especially
Okay.
the one with the little backdoor swinger.
Oh,
on it.
yeah.
It kind of like does like the door knocker on your ass and vibrates.
Except he was exceptional. This is why, because I'm thinking about the last big dick that I saw. I'm like, he was exceptionally well endowed. And I'm, giving him a blowjob. I'm down there, and I'm like, all right, babe, I'm going to pull out this cock ring, having no idea. I'm 17. No idea what the fuck I'm doing, right? I barely know to put it behind the balls. And so I get it on, and I'm stretching it on, and he's already completely hard. And I get it on, and I start blowing him with it on, and it snaps off. It's stretched so thin. It snaps off and it flies right past my eye. And that is how I almost lost my eye, giving a blowjob.
You'll poke your eye out.
You'll poke your eye out, kid. Oh, gosh. The Christmas Story, a porn parody.
Well, the whole lamp kind of goes with it, the fishnet lamp.
I had that lamp. I went to college in Baltimore, and we had a lot of kitschy, like John Watersy kind of stuff around the house, and we had the leg lamp. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, man. But yeah, I'm really excited. So is there anything else like specific about polyamory that I can like help kind of demystify or like answer for you?
What about you?
I think we got that part pretty much covered.
Yeah, you guys look like you're doing a pretty good job.
But the one thing that I wanted to get back to is
Your penis.
the mention.
I'm just going to be messing with you the rest of the time. Sorry. The men. Sorry.
The mention of being non-monogamous, is that a lifestyle, right? I think a lot of people focus a lot on the labels. They don't want to be identified with a particular label. Oh, we're not swingers, we're open. Labels, they don't define you, but they help communicate, right? If you're saying, I'm open, okay, what does that mean? If you're saying, I've run into people, they're saying, oh, I'm queer, okay, that's nice, but what does that mean? Do you want to blow me or not?
Well, just because you're queer doesn't mean that they want to blow you.
When someone says they're open, I'm like, does that mean I have to talk you into it? I don't know what that, like, you'll consider it. I hate the term open.
On one hand, I hate labels, but on the other hand, I do. I mean, we need them. Their usefulness is such that they help people find community. They help people find language for what they've been struggling to articulate, but they don't have the words to articulate. And they can be politicized. And they can, if you identify as a label is then a community is then a group of people. A group of people can then, politicize themselves. And so for queerness, take for example, queerness could mean I don't see gender. It could mean people's genitals are not anywhere as interesting to me as what's between their ears kind of thing. So it could be purely sexual, or it could be political, because queer, of course, is a reclaimed word. It used to be a derogatory word. So people who reclaim it, who identify that way, tend to be very politicized and very like activist communities. So that's, I chose it because both of those are true for me.
The point that I wanted to make is certain labels are less specific. It's saying like, oh, so we're kinky, right? Okay, what does that mean? Are you top? Are you bottom? Do you want to be set on fire or spanked or whatever? In the same way as like...
You want your scrotum pierced.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know. Like in the same way that queer says, okay, so follow-up question, are you interested in getting it on with me?
Yeah.
That's a follow-up question that you don't have to ask without...
Yep. Alternative identities do require many more follow-up questions than... if someone just says, yes, I'm straight. You know, if someone's like, I'm heterosexual, you're like, cool, I know who you're attracted to. You know,
or it works really well when you're not interested in a guy, just be like, no, I'm a lesbian. If you're not. No, I'm kidding.
No, I know, right? I have such complicated feelings about that. There's a whole camp of thought in the queer community, mostly like hardcore feminists, who get really angry when, you know, they're like, straight girls use that excuse all the time in clubs, just like when they don't want male attention, they'll just grab their girlfriend and be like, sorry, we're together. And that's devaluing authentic queer relationships. I actually don't have a problem with that, because here's the thing. Men are a safety and health risk to women. And if you need to get out of a situation, you say whatever the fuck you need to say to get out of a situation. I don't care.
My daughter is bisexual.
Yes.
But we joke and say she's 80-20. Like, she does like, but it's 80-20. So she likes...
You were like the coolest
she
mom ever.
Women.
I'm like so jealous of your...
So my kids make fun of me because, well, we were talking about the fact both my kids are bi. And
What?
I know. And I told my kids, I said, you know, it wasn't a negative thing. We were just talking. I said, statistically, I wonder how common that is to have two bisexual children. And my kids go, Mom, you have gay eggs. We can't help it.
Gay eggs.
But she uses it, and she is. I mean, I really consider her, instead of bisexual, really lesbian, because she's generally attracted to women. But
I like how you're just like, you're actually kind of like pushing her in the direction of ladies. You're like, I know you keep saying you kind of like men, but
same thing
women
with my son.
are...
Like, I feel like younger people don't want to commit sometimes because of stigmas. Mm-hmm. So actually bisexual seems to be more tolerated by communities who are not accepting.
Bisexuals are more accepted by straight communities,
right?
But they're more stigmatized by gay communities,
right?
Female bisexuals are more accepted, right? Male bisexuals, that's you're secretly
queerness,
gay.
Any kind of masculine queerness, that's the most threatening thing you can be to a straight person.
You'll find out in the lifestyle. Even there are a lot of bisexual men, but they hide it. They don't put it in their profile. Because, okay, so where straight women will play in a room with bisexual women and just not engage, or they're like, oh, I'm top up. You know, you can touch my boobs, but I'm not going to go down on you kind of thing. They are open, but the men are afraid if they're open that the guys are, and I'm like, so what? So what if he gets turned on by you getting your cock sucked by the girl? I mean, so what? Why is that a threat to you? And it's sad that a community where this should be so open is not, and not accepted in a lot of instances. And you would think that the swinger community would be the most open and accepting community of everyone. But sometimes, like, the poly thing scares them, the kink scares them.
Because it's too
just
open.
Like within, it's just like
maybe
within the gay community that some
mean,
things are more acceptable than others, and some things are looked down on. You would think in these most accepting communities that everyone would be brought in together.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work that way.
Well, there's always going to be a hierarchy, you know, in any kind of community. There's always going to be, you know, let's take non-monogamy as the big umbrella, right? And then we have all like the niche communities underneath of it. There's always going to be, because human beings by nature create hierarchies of power in order to feel superior or inferior to other people, right? So there's always going to be a community of people that's like, well, yeah, I do A, but at least I don't do B. Or I do C, but at least I don't do D.
We're poly, but at least we're not a dirty swinger.
Exactly, right? Like, so, and people like lob that back and forth in each other, and it's in everything. It's in the sex industry. We call it the whorearchy in the sex industry. Well, I'm a stripper, but at least I'm not an escort. Well, I'm an escort, but at least I'm not a porn performer. Well, I'm a porn performer, but at least I'm not a street prostitute. I mean, we just break each other down to build each other up. And that just, when you boil it down, that core principle just drives me insane. Like, it's so unnecessary. It gets in the way of so much friendship and connection. It does us a disservice. Absolutely.
Indeed.
I broke a nail.
Oh, no.
It's okay. It's my last day here. I'm fine.
Do you get workman's comp for that?
No, but I did work at I used to work very briefly at a strip club in San Francisco, the Lusty Lady. You guys know the Lusty Lady? Lusty Lady was the first unionized strip club, so they used to get things like sick leave and time off and workman's comp. And
speaking of which, in Nevada, if you're doing demos there, like King demos, which we did with the group, you need to get a erotic performer license, which is basically like a stripper card.
Well, yeah, everyone has to register.
So our entire gang had stripper cards, which was so hysterical.
Yeah, you have to register as a stripper. You have to register as an escort if you're working at a brothel.
Do you have a stripper card?
No, I wasn't on that one.
Okay, I was going to say, let's see what you got, baby.
Oh, my God. I can totally see you starring in like a remake of The Full Monty. I'm just saying. I'm like, that's your calling. What would your stripper name be?
Oh, God.
If he was like a Magic Mike type.
I still remember my first experience with a stripper pole at Desire. I did find out that there's such a thing as pole burn, which nobody told me about.
Do you guys see my legs right now? Do you see how my legs are entirely covered? Yep, these are all pole bruises. It hurts.
Yes, I figured that out.
You're like, never again.
Okay.
Hole in there last night. How come I didn't see this?
No.
That thing would just swing around. It like poke somebody's eye out. Like it's a liability. He just can't do it. He can't do it.
Alrighty.
He's like, all right, let's change the subject.
I think we're just about out of time. So, Andre, when people say, "Oh, I want to hear her," or "I want to be choked by her," where can they find you?
I would love to choke you. I am Andre Shakti. It's AndreShakti. You can Google me. If you do, my vagina will come up. You're welcome. I am Andre Shakti at Andre Shakti on Twitter. Yeah. I'm at take the mystery away. Why don't you? I am at Andre Shakti on Twitter. I'm Andre Shakti on Facebook, and my Poly column is IamPoly.net. And thank you so much for this. Is the first. You're popping my swinger podcast cherry. I've never been on a swinger podcast before, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Shout out.
We are Two or More to Tango.
Two or More to Tango is a podcast by a couple in Texas who is always down to earth and often funny. You can find them at twoormoretotango.com, all spelled out. And that's it for this episode. You can find Andre at AndreShakti.com. You can find us at blissbringers.com. Make sure to rate and subscribe. It helps us out a lot. If you would like to go to Naughty in Nawlins with us, go to blissbringers.com/NIN. You can also click it if you don't want to go with us and just go by yourself. It's fine. We'll understand.
Hello, this is Bob from Couples Cruise, the leader in adults only, clothing optional cruises. You are listening to Bliss Bringers. For more information on our cruises, go to blissbringers.com/cruise. See you there.
All names mentioned in this show are either fictional, taken from public record, or held by people who have given their explicit consent to be mentioned.